we get told that we look okay, our results come back pretty fine, and we know deep down I'm not fine. My skin was grey, my hair was falling out, my nails falling off. There was just symptom after symptom after symptom. If nobody's listening to me, then I really have to listen to myself.
Hi, everyone. As you'll learn from my guest today, being a therapist unfortunately doesn't make you immune to trauma. It just means you've got front row seats to how deeply it shapes our lives. And things like what happens when the body starts keeping score in ways that no textbook ever mentioned to any of us. If you're new here, I'm Raelan Agle, and this is where we get real about recovery from conditions like CFS and long COVID. After more than 230 interviews here, I've seen again and again what helps people improve is rarely quick or straightforward, but it is possible. And when it works, oh my goodness, it's definitely worth sharing. And that's what we're doing today. I am thrilled to welcome Nichola McDonald over in Northern Ireland. She is a therapist with over 20 years experience. And Nichola also spent 15 years navigating her own chronic illness journey, including ME/CFS, after a lifetime of childhood and generational trauma left her physically and emotionally depleted. And as a highly sensitive person and an empath herself, Nichola tried, seemingly all the right things, but nothing truly clicked until she found a gentler approach that finally helped her body feel safe enough to heal. So please join me in welcoming Nichola. Nichola, so incredible to have you here. Thanks for doing this.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute privilege to be here to speak with you, and I just absolutely love listening to everybody that you have on here, and yeah, I'm so grateful to be a part of what you're doing.
Oh, well, we're so grateful to have you here. You have had your own really long journey with this, and you have so much, professional experience working through these things. So many exciting things to get into in this interview. But it'd be really great to hear about like your own health journey. How did you get into this work, and how did that start for you?
Well, it started a very long time ago, really. Lots of health issues. Just falling sick a lot was the first indication. Lots of viruses. I think it went on mostly for about a year or so, where I felt like I'm sick of being sick. It was just constant. But looking back now, I was able to tell that there was so much more that was happening in my life than just catching virus after virus. I had lost my mum not that long beforehand. I had lost my dad when I was very young. There was lots of huge losses in my family, and even a lot of friends. So grief and loss was huge within my life. Even looking back as well from a very young age, the amount of trauma that I would have experienced, but didn't really think that it was trauma, because as you can tell by my accent, I'm from Ireland, but I'm from Northern Ireland, and there was 30 years of war here in this country, and both my parents were not meant to be together to do with that war. So for them to find somewhere safe to raise a child was a big struggle for them. So the trauma that I had, I didn't even know that it was there. I didn't expect that a lot of this would even come up later in my life. So it was more of when my mum had passed away, I had a lot of responsibilities. I caught a virus, which was glandular fever. I think, like most people, I hear that we think it's the virus, that's the big thing that, has made me feel the chronic fatigue, the migraines, I'm not feeling like myself. It has to be this. And we see professional after professional. We get turned down. We get told that we look okay. Our results come back pretty fine. And we know deep down, I'm not fine. My skin was grey. My hair was falling out. My nails falling off. There was just symptom after symptom after symptom, but I didn't want to really give up on myself. Then I just sort of thought, well, if nobody's listening to me, then I really have to listen to myself. And I think it's the same as you. Spent a lot of money on supplements and changing lifestyles and doing all of the things that is wonderful. They're absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad that I did change my lifestyle, but it really wasn't anything that got me better. It was more, well, I have to look at my past trauma. I have to look at my emotions. I have to look at what's going on deep inside more to really uncover what that is for me, what I'm holding on to, what has made my personality in a certain way that makes me so exhausted, such as being a human giver, as I call it. Everybody calls it the people pleaser, but I don't really like calling it that. It's more, I give and I give and I give to everybody else, and very rarely I would show up for myself. It's being the perfectionist. It's being the overachiever. All of these different traits that we have learnt from a young child had got me to that point. And it was only when I had come across a person called Chris Duncan, who had looked in the subconscious mind and about recoding, that's when I actually started to get myself back on track again and feel more like myself. So even though that I wasn't doing it for such a long time afterwards, and I started slipping again, I had lots of stress in life. And I think a lot of people on here even speak about having this push, crash. We feel fine and then you're crashing again. I moved back home to Ireland. I lived in Australia for a long time. And moving back home, my partner's visa got rejected, and we had to find a way of getting him here, and still going through the process many years later. But that had a huge impact on my well-being of going into a job that didn't really align. It was lots of crisis as well, and my system just wasn't even ready for it. But it got me then working more on the nervous system, because I knew about that. I knew about the nervous system, and I knew that this is what I had to do for myself while I was still in this place. Because if I didn't work in the job, my partner wouldn't have got the visa. So it was like I was held in a place of, this is what you have to do. And I knew from before, and I think that fear was possibly the biggest thing then that made me feel worse. So I had a bit of a setback, but I always look at those setbacks as a way of learning, of growing, of expanding myself and helping me to help even all of my other clients as well.
So I'm always so curious to hear, how did you get to this place of realizing that you needed to look deeper, look inward, because the biomedical model that most of us follow isn't telling us anything like that, 99% of the time at least. So how did you figure that out?
Well, I am a therapist, but even that has huge limitations as well. It's more, let's just talk about your problems. But for me, I just know that doesn't actually work, because we're just speaking about them. We're not working our way through them. We're not connecting with the body. We're not connecting with the emotions and everything that's coming up. And it was mainly finding so many other people out there who work with energy medicine and the mind body healing, that I got really connected into other modalities. So my way of therapy is, it's not talk therapy at all. Like, I will let people talk and I get to know them, but it's not, how are you feeling about that? And what are you thinking? What are you thinking right now? It's not the full person centered. I show up as a complete human being. I know that was something that really supported me with a therapist who I came across many years ago, that they told me a little bit about them. They made me feel safe. They made me feel comfortable. Couldn't tell you what modality that they were even using, but they supported me through one of the hardest times of my life. And that's what I wanted to do for other people. And I've been to other therapists as well, where I didn't feel heard, I didn't feel seen, I didn't feel like I was coming away with anything. And I didn't want to do that for my own patients as well. I really wanted to support them in a way that brings full healing, brings themselves into a place of knowing, well, all I have to do is look inwards. So, as I'd mentioned, there was Chris Duncan. There's another person, Steve Wells, who does intention tapping. I'm intention tapping a practitioner. I also do heart math. Don't know if you've heard of them, the Heart Math Institute, which works with the heart. I work very, very deeply with internal family systems and inner child shadow work, all of that. It's very confronting and it's not for everybody, but that's where the true healing begins. But I don't do it right away because it means that we could traumatize our nervous system even more if we're not in a great place. So it's helping people regulate first, getting them regulated, then getting them to a place of, well, are you ready now to do this deeper dive internally and find out what's there? And most of the time they are ready and they come and they say, I'm feeling fantastic. I'm feeling good. I've regulated my nervous system. I'm self-soothing. I'm doing all of these wonderful things and I feel great. And then now it's where I'm sorry, I'm going to make you cry. There's lots of emotions going to come up. But that's the power of it, because they'll come back and they'll say, wow, if I'd done this when I first met you, I wouldn't have been able to soothe myself between sessions. I wouldn't be able to bounce back quicker. I wouldn't be able to get myself to a place that I would come back and speak to you again. So it's where that self-soothing, that regulation beforehand gets them then to this place of, okay, I can do the harder work and it's going to be challenging for that period of time, but I'm going to be able to help myself because I know what I have to do to get myself into this place. And after a while, those situations that would have had such an emotional attachment on them before doesn't have that. They've either let it go or they've accepted it. And that's where the real healing that I believe begins. And we've all still got a lot of buried emotions deep inside of us that we haven't uncovered. Even someone I was working with earlier today said, wow, every time I do this inner work, there's something that comes up that I least expected. And I just find it really wonderful. And all of my clients find it wonderful as well.
Quick interruption. If you're working on your recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome or long COVID and know or strongly suspect that brain retraining and nervous system regulation will be a key part of your recovery process and you'd like to learn more about this, you can join the completely free 5-day brain training course linked in this video's description. No credit card required, no strings attached, just key information and strategies delivered straight to your inbox to help propel your journey forward. You can use the link pinned in the comments below and also in this video's description to sign up.
Nichola, this is magic. I am just, the work you do is so important. I have so much respect for it. It's so needed. I can't imagine what an amazing thing this is for people who are going through this journey. And I think back, as you're talking, when I first got CFS, I found an amazing therapist, and she was one of the key people that kept me sane and got me through it. And I remember her sharing bits of herself, like you were, saying. And one day she said, I was getting ready this morning and curling my hair, and I thought of you, and I thought, how hard would it be if I didn't even have the energy to hold a curling iron up? And I remember just like tears. I'm like, she believes me. Like my own doctor didn't even believe I was unwell. So anyways, I think the world of therapists and the work that you do. And your approach sounds incredible. And as you were talking, you said, it's important for them to regulate their nervous system first. So lots of people have different approaches to this. So lots to break down here, but I'd love to start there. Like, how do you work with people? How do you get them to get to that point?
Yeah, so I call it a wellness toolbox, really. And I just meet people where they're at. I find out where their autonomic nervous system is. Are they at that shutdown place, that dorsal vagal shutdown? Or are they in this pace of fight, flight, go, 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 push, push, push? And most of the time, people are just bouncing back and forth. So it's always going to look very, very different for everybody. And we chat away. We find out a little bit about one another. I let them know little things about me, and I will say when I know myself when I'm dysregulated. I've got a neighbor who has a dog, a big German Shepherd. Very very loud bark, and that's a warning flag for me when I know that my capacity is at its limits. So little things like that, will I'll mention about what's going on for me. They go, oh, yeah, that's exactly the same for me. Or where I'll say to people, if you're just completely exhausted, and you can't do anything else apart from just sit on the sofa and watch Netflix, could you maybe even just use a weighted blanket, get nice cups of tea, not watch The Handmaid's Tale, but watch something like,
slightly less intense. Yeah.
yeah,
A very intense show for people who haven't seen it. It
yes,
is, yeah.
very, very intense. Yeah, and that's why I sort of brought it up, because that's going to be too much for the nervous system, but something more like Frankie and Grace, which is very lighthearted and easy. Yeah, so it's just changing little things, but it's more of don't judge myself for sitting here, even though that I know I've got all of these other things to do, because that's what most people will do. It's getting people in the place of I'm okay with what's happening right now. I know that it's going to pass. I know that I'm not going to be here all the time, but if I keep pushing myself and I keep trying harder and harder to get myself out of this by not taking the time and pacing ourselves, then we're not going to get out of it as easy, because the nervous system doesn't know fast paced. It just knows taking things slow. And by doing that, then that's where we're getting ourselves back up on this ladder. However, I do give people warning signs if we're down at the bottom of this autonomic nervous system, which is the top is the parasympathetic, the middle is the sympathetic, the bottom is that burnout, that shutdown, that freeze response. And when we move back up the ladder, things may start to feel a little bit, oh, this is worse. I'm seeing more symptoms. I'm feeling more off balance. My sleep is not great. I'm catching more viruses because the immune system has come back online. But it's more, can I let myself know that everything's okay? I'm just getting worse before I get better. I'm just climbing up this ladder, and that's okay. And by doing all of this, by little tools that people can just pull out for themselves, then that's where people are able to regulate themselves. It's noticing, where am I day by day? It's checking in with ourselves, making sure that if we're not quite high of being 100%, because nobody's ever 100% all of the time, if we're a little bit lower, can we show up being vulnerable? I'd even spoke about that today in one of my groups, that if I'm not myself, I let my clients know that I'm not myself. I let them know that I've had, a time in that day that it hasn't been so great. Maybe emotions have been high or something has happened with me. I don't give the full story, but I just let them know I'm not really the best version of me today. And even just by doing that, it makes them sort of look at me of, wow, she's human. she she has all of these emotions. She isn't doing too great, even though that she's a therapist. And it makes them feel so much better within themselves, going, wow, I'm just human too.
You're right. It's so validating. I'm like, okay, we're allowed to have off days. We're allowed to be tired sometimes. We're allowed to not always be, like you said, you're the best version of yourself. I think that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So I know that you understand and help work with people who are, highly sensitive people or empaths. And sometimes people who are like this can feel stuck in a state of burnout or really just struggling to get through these conditions. So how do you work with people like this?
Yeah, I absolutely love working with highly sensitive people, because I'm highly sensitive myself, and I know what it feels like to be overstimulated very, very easily. And we're just living in society where that it's just going to happen to us more and more. The way that I tend to explain it to people, it's where we're all carrying an invisible bucket around with us, and things will come at us. It'll be somebody's maybe tone of voice or facial expression, or there may be a song, especially being highly sensitive. It could be songs, or it can be art, it can be movies, or seeing somebody else that isn't really having a good time that can impact our well-being. But our bucket is way, way smaller than someone who isn't highly sensitive. So it means that that bucket is just going to get filled up too quickly. But we live in the society of, well, you need to keep going and you have to keep pushing through. And we think, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And the pressures that we put on ourselves, being highly sensitive, we think a lot. We're always processing. Even after the event has finished, we feel really, really deeply. But if we're not very careful, that bucket is just going to overflow. And when it overflows, it's not just having to tip out the bucket, we have to clean up the mess everywhere as well. And by doing that, this is where we get so exhausted. We're just running on empty a lot, and we have to do way more regulating than an average person. So it's really wonderful to work with highly sensitive people, because I understand what they're going through. And I think that's a huge part, because not many people really understand it. I didn't even know that I was highly sensitive. I avoided that topic for many years. I would have hid myself away. If I got very emotional, I wouldn't have shown anybody how I was feeling, because in today's society, that's considered as weak when you show your emotions. It's always bottling things up. And then when we bottle it up, we're the ones that get sick, because we're not expressing it. We're not letting it out. We're not letting ourselves be the way that we're meant to. And wonderful thing about highly sensitive people that they don't even realize they're more resilient as well. It's where they will bounce back a lot quicker than someone who isn't highly sensitive, which might sound a little bit counterintuitive, because we get overstimulated way quicker than somebody else, but we still bounce back quicker. We just have that higher capacity to be able to realize, oh, yeah, I can see that. But a big part is that I don't want to look at those emotions, because those emotions are too big, too confronting, too much. And I will possibly move away from them and avoid them as much as possible, but they never go away. They always stay with us. A lot of highly sensitive people don't actually regulate themselves as much as what a person who isn't highly sensitive, because the fact they don't want to confront those emotions. They feel like, if I look at them, that's the floodgates opened. I'm never going to be able to stop. But if we do just sit with them and get them shifting a little bit more, it's where we start to feel lighter. And the lighter that we feel, the more capacity we have then to be able to deal with everything around us. So it's just helping highly sensitive people become aware of, this is who I actually am. This is me. And I'm going to embrace this sensitivity. I'm not going to try and hide it or push it away. I'm going to use it to my advantage. And the emotional part of it is a huge, huge thing. And I'm sure you're well aware by everything that I'm saying. Everything's emotion for myself. I always talk emotion. So a lot of people who come to me, if they aren't highly sensitive, then that emotion part, they may be like, oh, what are you doing? There's no way that I'm going near that. I'm just here to talk. I'm not here about the emotional side of it. But the emotions is where we do get that healing. That's where we have to really work through the most part of it, because once we let them go, it becomes a little bit easier for us to work through other things. And most of my sessions, they don't last too long. And I'll always say to people that it's a short space of time where we will bring huge emotions up to the surface. We let them go. People at the end of it always go, I feel so much better just by letting that out. And that week, yes, something else might come along, but what was bothering them in that session isn't bothering them the next time that they come back.
Yeah. heard someone say once that an emotion felt is an emotion changed. And I love that because even just feeling it, and sometimes, there's more work beyond that that we need to do, but just giving it space, letting it out, it gives you a chance to, learn from it or see what it is. And yeah, just feel lighter. It's exhausting going through life, trying to shove everything down and pretend it's not there and pretend that nothing's bothering you. And I think we don't even give ourselves permission to, like, oh, well, I shouldn't. Why am I getting worked up over these things that happened in the past? Or it wasn't even that big of a deal. And we don't realize how much it impacts us when we're going through life.
Yeah, I absolutely love that saying, because the way that I describe them is where we're all carrying this backpack, and all of these emotions are heavy stones that we just keep filling up this backpack. We don't address them, and they never go away. They stay with us, and we always look at, I want to be over here. I want to feel great, and I want to feel happy and confident and optimistic and all of these wonderful emotions. But if you're carrying so much over here, how are you going to get across to here? This backpack is just pulling you to the ground. So try to let out little piece by piece. And the more that you do that, the more that you will start to feel these other emotions that you want to feel.
And how do you find, because I know with my own journey, when I was facing ME/CFS, I, in my own way, started working through my backpack of stones, and I had to do it gradually. And I found it could really ultimately make me feel lighter, but in the short term, take a round out of me. And so I had to be conscious of not trying to do too much at once. And I just let's unpack a little stones. So is that normal, or what is the process when you work with people? Do they find that it's they need to pace themselves because it can be a lot?
Yeah, pacing is the way to go. You do not want to dive head first into all of this, because it's just so overwhelming for every part of our being. And within trauma therapy, it's dipping your toe into the sea and pulling back, going, oh, that's a little bit too much. But I've been able to do that, and I'm okay. And we just keep doing that piece by piece. And if it does get a little bit too much, we don't go. We never go there. It's where maybe I'm not really feeling too great today, and my energy is very low, or there's something actually happening in my immediate life. We don't look at anything from the past at all that we can let go of. So will we just work on what's happening in our immediate life right now? And it's okay to not visit everything that happens in the past either. It's where, how can we actually feel in ourselves in the moment? Because we don't want to add to it. And I hear a lot of people who will come to me and they work with the somatic works. The somatic works is absolutely wonderful, of getting the emotion shifted within the body, but they're not in a place where they've been regulated first. And they'll tell me that their whole nervous system just feels frazzled. It's like they've gone backwards rather than forwards. And you don't want to do that, because then it'll be a lot harder to be able to uncover anything. It's always taking it at the pace that you're ready to go. And everybody's going to be different. Nobody is going to be the exact same. And the amount of issues that people have is going to look very different for everybody. So it's just honoring ourselves of where we are and where we want to be going, but taking our time with it, being okay that, oh, that's just too much for me right now. And I'm fine with, just talking about something else or working through something else. But it's not just where, oh, I'm completely done with all of these emotions. It could even just be where I'm just finished right now. I don't really want to uncover anymore. I feel like I'm actually in a good place with all of this. And maybe I want to work on something else. So that could be an option as well. Because I do some coaching and helping people move forward, from blocks that they have in their lives of trying to create something they love. And that can be really wonderful then for the nervous system as well, to come back to do this. But I'm also involved in the clinical trials for psychedelic therapy. And that has been absolutely wonderful for people who haven't been able to get themselves to a place of uncovering these stuck traumas that have impacted all of their well-being. And there was one person who had fallen off a cliff and broke every bone within their body and tried so many other therapies. But by doing this, they said it was the best pain relief that they'd ever had because it had changed compartments within their brain to be able to help them feel a bit more relaxed. Other people have actually been able to face their traumas, and that's where trauma work really is of facing it in order to go through it, to accept or let it go. But sometimes we will put up these barriers and blocks because it's too hard to go there. And because it's too hard, we're not able to resolve it. We're not able to shift it from the body. And that's where a lot of things stay stuck.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I imagine just from your own journey and all the people that you work with, as important as it is to hear all the things that are working and how people move past things, many people do feel stuck. So are there other ways or other barriers or other mindsets that you find that, held you back or, sort of keep people stuck with the people you work with?
Oh, yeah. It's our limiting beliefs is a huge one. The most common is that I'm not good enough, that a lot of people have. And by having that, it just filters out into all areas of our life. And it will be, well, there's not really much point in trying that because I'm not good enough for it. Or we will try something and maybe we fail at it and we will feel, well, obviously, because I'm not good enough. And it just, all of these experiences just keep reconfirming and reconfirming that this belief is true when really it's not true. It's just something that we're holding on to, and that's what we see the world. That's the filter that we're looking through. And by changing that, that's something then that supports us. So I'll always say to people, if you have a certain belief, or if you have a thought, if you have a way of thinking about your life, yourself, the world, whatever it may be, you don't want to completely change it to the opposite, such as if they're not good enough, we don't want to say, oh, I'm wonderful and I am good enough, because the body's just going to go, oh no, that isn't true. I don't believe you. So we want to get it to a place of, well, where do I believe this? Could I maybe even say I'm a work in progress? How does that feel? It's just notice it in the body. Noticing, are you rejecting it or does it actually feel okay? And the more then that we work through how things feel okay, it's taking those small steps to get into a place. Oh, I didn't actually realize that I'm in a place now that I don't even believe that anymore. Because we don't, we will get there and it'll be, oh wow, that's something new that I didn't even realize. But it takes a while to get there. And I always say to people that when we are trying to make changes in our lives of, patterns and behaviors and thoughts that are reoccurring for us, becoming aware is generally the first step. Becoming aware of them, then that's generally where it becomes harder and people go, I'm aware of this, but I'm not making any change. What's happening with me? I'm telling myself, don't do it, but I do it anyway. And the way that I like to look at it is the little alien in Men in Black who's got all of the power controls. It's just like, yeah, they've got the controls and they're moving my body, even though that I'm in the background saying, don't do it.
Relatable. Yeah.
And that's generally, where we will be at to start off with. But I always say to people, don't be annoyed at yourself because you're becoming aware. You weren't aware of it beforehand. So this is the new step. It just feels uncomfortable because you are aware of it. And after a while, the changes that you do make, it just becomes part of you, because those neurons within our brain, they'll be changed to the new version of ourselves. And that's how it's been to where we are now. Those neurons have just been replayed so many times that has got us to this place without even realizing it. We're always going to meet it with resistance, but the more we work on it, then the easier it becomes after a while. I always say that people just think the brain is a muscle. Oh, yeah, you have to do repetition after repetition. And I don't like saying that to people. I'd love to give them a Harry Potter wand and make everything, better, but life just isn't like that. And if we had a wand, would we actually learn any of the lessons? Would we learn anything about ourselves that really does need to make change? Because I know for myself, all my lessons is when I'm sort of at my rock bottom and at the hardest, that's where I tend to get mine the most of. Oh, I see that. I like to call them dark nights of the soul because it's where I'm growing from a really, really dark place.
So, this has all been really helpful, and I love you walking through the different scenarios and the things that come up as you work through things with people. I know you have a specific framework that you follow as well in your work with clients. So, could you tell us about that?
Yeah, oh, I would love to tell you about that. So I've named this framework Luner, which is the Irish term for finding sparkle and light within something. It's described as seeing the sun hit off the waves in the sea. And if you were to look it up on Google, you will also find, in Irish terms, having a drink of stout in the mornings. Yeah, which yeah.
Love it.
For Irish people, that is wonderful. But it's finding the little joys in life. And I think that's the biggest part of healing. It's finding the small joys that maybe you have lost within your life because you have no energy. And that's the biggest part. Music will go out, connecting with friends, doing hobbies, all of these things. But if you're so exhausted, you can't really function in anything. So anything you really love just goes completely out the window. So that's why I named it that framework as Luner, to really find that within yourself and within the world. And the first part is regulation and brain retraining and working with the mind and the emotions, the body, just really, really connecting with ourselves first and getting ourselves regulated. Then the second part is doing that deeper dive that I'd spoke about. It's really finding what is your limiting beliefs? How are you speaking to yourself? What's your shadows? Where do they come from? Where's that inner child feeling that pain? And it's really comforting ourselves in that way that supports us to move to the next stage of really looking at, well, where do I want to go in life? Because once we sort of overcome, all of these health issues, we're a very, very different person. And we can't go back to the person who we were because that was the person who got us to the place of not feeling too well. So it's more, well, what is it then that I want to create? Maybe it is finding a new identity, because I hear a lot of people who are coming back to themselves. The identity part is huge. So that's the last part. It's moving through the blocks of what we do want to create, or it possibly is that going towards the psychedelic therapy, because maybe we haven't been able to overcome everything that we want. Psychedelic therapy isn't for everybody, and I don't say to everybody to go and try it. It's where are you in a place that you have tried maybe absolutely everything and nothing has worked for you? Then it's going there. But a lot of people afterwards will go, wow, my life has completely changed. My thoughts, my views, how I am as a person. But it's more, well, let me, get rid of this job, sell my house, get a divorce, move away, do all of these things. But it's more, no, come back, let's integrate this, let's sort of work through this first. And there's not enough integration, I think, at the moment with even the clinical trials that are happening, that people actually need that part of it. It's wonderful what they're doing and how they're working with it. I don't know how it's going to turn afterwards. I hope that it stays the same as what it is now, but it'll be highly expensive for people to be able to go through that, where I hope it doesn't turn into the way that SSRIs are just being prescribed of, here you go, see you later, figure it out for yourself, and maybe come back to me, if you need, a higher dosage or something like that. As the way that we're working with it is, I'm the mentor, you've got a nurse, you've got a doctor, there's lots of processes that people go through. And even if they're not actually getting the dose with the clinical trials, they have nearly a lifetime worth of therapy within that part. But we try not to intervene as much as possible. It's more of that non-directive approach that I was talking about before of, well, how does this make you feel, to get them into a place of recognizing everything? So that kind of framework is sort of quite safe for people to go through, because the first part is really pacing yourself, and that could take time. It can take 6 months to a year to really get yourself regulated before even going into anything else. So that first part is the main part to really focus on, get that foundation of all of the wonderful tools, and you can get them out there. I know that you've even mentioned yourself, there's so much free tools that are out there, and people don't need to actually go and pay for them. But if they want that extra support, if they want to do it a little bit quicker, then it is getting the person to walk alongside them, get the guides, get everything that they need to know of the direction that they need to go in. And it is worth it, because it took me 15 years to get to where I am now, and didn't actually think that I would be here. I have full head of hair, and I was losing so much hair. I've long nails again. Didn't think that I would get them again. Even my skin was grey. I looked like a zombie. So I never really thought that I would get to a place where I feel like me. And even recently, even finding out that I'm pregnant, didn't think that that was going to happen either. With turning 40 this year, really didn't think that I was able to even have children. But to me, that's letting me know that my body's in such a safe place to be able to conceive.
Absolutely incredible. And congratulations. That is
Thank
so
you.
exciting. This is amazing. And I love talking to so many different people, because everyone has, a new perspective, a different insight, a slightly different approach at coming at things. But at the same time, I also love that I'm hearing so many of the same themes in the people that I interview, where it's, finding that alignment in your life. It's, scooping away at that emotional reservoir, the things that we're carrying around. It's regulating your nervous system. It's finding that focus on joy. And, I interviewed someone a while back who said, sort of like you, like, if I could wave a magic wand and make this all go away for you, I wouldn't, because I'd be doing you a disservice. And it's so bizarre, but or not, depending how you look at it. But this journey is just teaching us how to be us, like how to be comfortable in our skin, how to be our authentic version of ourselves in the world, how to like all the parts of us, and just how to thrive in life, which is so amazing when you think about it, that this is the learning journey to get you past many chronic health conditions.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Nichola. Oh my goodness, I love this so much. You're doing incredible work. I'm so grateful that you've got to such a great place in your own life, and now you're helping so many other people. It's just really wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
For people watching, I'm going to link to, I'm thinking I interviewed someone named Troy a while back, who also talked about his journey as a highly sensitive person. I think this is something that we need to talk about more. So if you're listening, watching, and this resonates, you're like, yes, this sounds like me. That's another great one to check out. So yeah, thank you for everyone who's watching, listening. Thank you again, Nichola, and I hope to see you in this next video with Troy.